questions. Just a couple notes quickly about the ports, and this slide just really looks at the economic impact of the Georgia ports. You can see basically 295,000 jobs, either full or part-time, are because of the port here. So the port is really nothing more than an economic engine, an economic enabler for the state of Georgia, as well as for the region of the Southeast. These are numbers that are put together by the Terry College of Business. It's done once every 2 years. I think what's really important, and you can read faster than I could talk, so I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I think a couple of things of note: $15.5 billion in income derived through the port. Nationwide, if you look towards the bottom, 8.3 of all containerized traffic goes in and out of the United States, goes to the port, and just about 12% of all U.S. exports goes to the port. So just a tremendous engine for commerce. Phenomenal balance, as you heard a lot of the speakers talk about here today, from Jack Wells to others. It's really part of the key success of the port is the great balance between imports and exports, and it's almost really unheard of, except probably more so in the Southeast than anywhere else, because otherwise most port authorities in the United States are either at a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 imbalance of imports versus exports. Quick commercial on the Georgia Ports Authority. We are responsible for 5 deepwater ports and 2 barge terminals. 2 of our deepwater ports are in Savannah, 3 in Brunswick. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, that is a Garden City terminal. That sits on about 1,207 acres. It is the single largest container terminal in the United States. Again, 4th busiest in terms of throughput. That is a dedicated container facility where we have both Class 1 railroads on site on the terminal, both Norfolk Southern and CSX. To the right, in the upper right-hand corner, is Ocean Terminal. It is right underneath the Talmadge Bridge, right downtown. That is more of a purpose-built break bulk facility. We do a little bit of container activity there, but really more dedicated to break bulk commodities. On the middle left is Colonel's Island. That is essentially an auto processing, ro-ro heavy, high and heavy facility. It's actually the sixth largest auto processing terminal in the United States now. So it's a really important part of our business, a high growth area for us. And on the middle right is Mayor's Point. On the bottom left is Marine Point Terminals, and then our 2 barge terminals in Columbus and in Bainbridge. So that's sort of who and what we are in terms of our facilities here in the state of Georgia. Again, this basically is a layout of what I just had gone over. You can see in Garden City Terminal, again, dedicated towards containers. Ocean Terminal is that break bulk, heavy lift, project cargo, a lot of heavy machinery like Caterpillar, John Deere, Komatsu, etc. Port of Brunswick, Colonel's Island, it's more of an agri-bulk, project cargo, ro-ro, and the autos, of course. And then it just gives you the breakdown as we go along. One of the things that we look at a lot is demographics, and we talked about it here today. The U.S. has an aging population. There is a real population shift going on in the United States right now. In the shaded area that you're taking a look at, about 44% of the U.S. population resides. So almost half of the U.S. population is in that lower southeast quadrant of the United States. So we are really ideally positioned, ideally located to serve commerce. And again, as the U.S. population gets older, they're moving to areas where the cost of living is lower, the weather's warmer, all those kind of things, right to work states, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting when you compare in the census between 2000 and 2010, the state of Georgia 10 years ago in 2000 was the 9th most populous state in the United States. Fast forward 10 years later, Georgia is now 6th. So 2009 was actually the first year that the combined states' populations of Florida and Georgia now exceed the combined populations of New York and New Jersey. So within a 10-year period, the Northeast is basically flattened out. It's plateaued. The upper Midwest, the population is actually in decline. So there continues to be a migration to the Southeast. This is where the consumers are. This is where the consuming population is. So the importers and exporters, retailers have to be positioned here to service their customers. So again, we're ideally located, particularly in Savannah, with our port. Really, if I left anyone with anything here today in terms of a takeaway that I'd like you to remember after my remarks, this looks at the top 10 ports in the United States. And we're not just looking at a single year. We're doing a 10-year comparison, comparing the year 2000 versus the year 2010. You can see as we go across the top, it analyzes that 10-year compound annual growth rate. And you can see that the Port of Savannah, even 10 years ago, would not even have been in the top 10. They were they were below 1 million TEUs. And fast forward 10 years later, you can see that growth up to 2.8 million. We will exceed over 3 million here this calendar year. But that growth is really significant, 11.5% per year for the last 10 years. In 2009, we took a dip like everybody else did because of the economy, but probably less hurt than most other port authorities in the United States. We are more of a leading indicator to the economy as opposed to a lag indicator, which is always very interesting when we look at a lot of our statistics. But you can see that that drop in 2009 was far less than most other port authorities, but then just bounced back in 2010, 20% above 2009. So fully recovered and well beyond. I promise I'm not gonna give a death by PowerPoint here with stats, but just to talk. These are more internal statistics now, showing why has that growth happened. Because you think, why Savannah? Why Savannah in terms of being a logistics hub, a gateway to the Southeast, and every port likes to talk about itself as a gateway, but I think that the market determines where the true gateways are going to be, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I think if there was just one thing that we were doing well, if it was just the geography, or if it was just the rail infrastructure, the intermodal connectivity that we have, or the highway connectivity, or all those things, others might be able to replicate it. But it's a combination of all these things just put together that really give us really sustainable value in the marketplace to our customers. But a big game changer for us was in 2002. And for those of you who are in transportation and logistics, and I've been in transportation for over 30 years now, really on the carrier and the logistics side before coming over to the Port Authority 2.5 years ago, the West Coast closed for 11 days. There was a work stoppage, work slowdown for 11 days, which caused a ripple effect that lasted months for retailers, importers, and exporters. And this was really a wake-up call for North America, which heretofore, with freight coming in and out from Asia, that the gateways of Southern California were the principal gateways for all this. And I think it was a wake-up call that they had been far too dependent upon those gateways, needed to diversify and spread their risk with their supply chain and distribution activities. Now, you might have thought in the succeeding year in 03 that there might have been an economic correction that would have caused that number to flatten out or maybe even drop a little bit. But in fact, it continued to grow in 2003 and has grown every year since. Another big game changer for us in 2007 was the emergence of the Suez services. Well, the big ships are already coming to the east coast, but it was a big game changer for us. The carriers are very, very attracted to these Suez services because they can bring in the bigger ships. They're already bringing in the 8,000, 8,500 TEU ships are coming into the East Coast now, coming to our ports here today. Unfortunately, they're a bit tidally restricted, which we can talk about a little bit later. I can answer any questions on, but we're handling them. It's important to the carriers, it's valuable to the carriers, because basically their slot cost with these vessels in comparison to ships that are Panamax size here today, their slot costs are about 40% lower per slot than the ships that are Panamax that are about 4,800 coming through the Panama Canal here today. And those carriers also have the opportunity to what we call double dip or triple dip, as with revenue opportunities, as they're coming through Asia, through Southeast Asia, Indian subcontinent, Middle East. They're taking off cargo, putting cargo back on, and coming to the East Coast. So it's very, very attractive to the carriers, and you are going to see more and more rapid growth of Suez services coming to the U.S. East Coast, even ahead of, obviously, the Panama Canal expansion that's going to happen. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the presentations here today, too. You can see things began cooling off towards the end of '08. It was really in the fourth quarter that things really, the economy began to hit us. In 2009, down that 9.9, and in 2010, fully recovered at about 20%.